Rosemary Kennedy was the third child of Joseph and Rose Kennedy and the sister of future President John F. Kennedy. Born in 1918, she was a part of one of the most powerful and well-known families in American history. But unlike her famous siblings, Rosemary's stories was one of silence, tragedy, and secrecy. Her life took a devastating turn when, at just 23 years old, she was subjected to a lobotomy that left her permanently disabled. Her story remained hidden from the public for decades, quietly tucked away while the rest of the family rose to fame. Today, we're going to explore the heartbreaking story of Rosemary Kennedy and the lobotomy that changed her life forever. From an early age, Rosemary was described as sweet, kind, and eager to please, but her development was noticeably slower than her siblings. She had trouble keeping up in school, struggled with basic skills, and was prone to mood swings and emotional outbursts. In a highly ambitious and image-conscious family like the Kennedys, this was seen as a problem. Her parents feared that her behavior would attract unwanted attention and possible damage to the family's reputation, especially as Joseph Kennedy was grooming his sons for political careers. At the time, mental health and developmental disabilities were poorly understood. The stigma was heavy. Families were often encouraged to hide or institutionalize children who didn't fit the norm. Medical science was primitive, and treatments for mental illness ranged from ineffective to deeply harmful. It was within the social climate that Rosemary's fate was sealed. As she grew older, Rosemary's challenges intensified. Her behavior reportedly became more erratic. She would sneak out at night, go on long walks by herself, and act impulsively in public. Some reports suggest her parents were worried she might get pregnant out of wedlock, which in their eyes would be a scandal. Desperate for a solution and hoping to fix her, Joseph Kennedy consulted doctors who were experimenting with a relatively new and highly controversial procedure at the time. It was called a lobotomy. The theory behind lobotomies was that cutting into certain areas of the brain, doctors could reduce symptoms of mental illness such as aggression, anxiety, and mood instability. But in reality, lobotomies were crude and dangerous. They often left patients with severe impairments, and success was rare. In 1941, without informing the rest of the family, Joseph Kennedy authorized the operation on Rosemary. She was just 23 years old. The procedure was performed by Dr. Walter Freeman and Dr. James Watts, pioneers of the lobotomy technique. As they operated, they asked Rosemary to recite poems and perform tasks. When she began to struggle to speak, they stopped, but the damage was already done. After the operation, Rosemary could no longer speak clearly. She lost most of her ability to walk, use her hands, or care for herself. Her mental capacity was reduced to that of a 2-year-old. She had been permanently disabled by the very people who were supposed to help her. The Kennedys quickly removed her from public view. She was placed in an institution in Wisconsin and lived there for the rest of her life. Her siblings were told she had been sent to a boarding school and were not given full details about her condition. For many years, Rosemary's name was rarely spoken, and her existence was essentially erased from the family narrative. It wasn't until the 1960s that her sister Eunice Kennedy Shriver began to speak more openly about developmental disabilities, inspired in part by Rosemary's experience. Eunice would go on to found the Special Olympics, an organization that helped transform public understanding and treatment of individuals with intellectual and developmental challenges. Rosemary's story is tragic, but it also played a quiet role in changing the world. By the time the truth became public, attitudes towards mental health had begun to shift. The secrecy and the shame that once surrounded conditions like Rosemary's were slowly being replaced by compassion and advocacy. Still, the damage had been done. Rosemary lived most of her life isolated and unable to communicate. She died in 2005 at the age of 86, after spending over 6 decades in institutions. Her story serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers of stigma, the consequences of medical practices driven by fear instead of understanding, and the human cost of trying to control a person's identity to fit a perfect public image. We now know so much more about mental health, intellectual disabilities, and the importance of early support, inclusion, and compassion. But Rosemary's life is a story we must never forget. It shows us how far we've come and how far we still need to go in treating all individuals with dignity and care. If you found this story important or moving, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for more educational content.